Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as every week from the south of Germany in Munich. Today is Saturday, it's the 16th of November 2019 and I'm just so happy to be talking to you today about some knitting. Yay! I am just so into knitting at the moment. All the yarn, all the projects, all the patterns. Everything is just making me so incredibly happy. I think it has to do with the weather as well. And yeah, I just can't help it. It's pretty much all I think about at the moment. So, if you're watching for the very first time, thank you so much for giving this podcast a shot. I really hope that you will enjoy it. And if you're coming back, of course, thank you so much for being a regular viewer of the podcast. Today I have some finished objects for you. I have quite a few works in progress. I have a few acquisitions, possibly some needle talk. So I have quite a lot of stuff to talk to you guys about. The only thing is that it is super dark today. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but it's just a super gloomy day. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. I've been waiting all day for it to become somewhat light and it just doesn't. So depending on how the whole light situation goes, we may keep this shorter or keep it longer, or the quality might be a little bit off and there's just nothing I can do about it, so oh well. Where shall we start? I feel like I have fluff in my nose already and I haven't even started. Also, no coffee today. I know, right? So sad. The true story, the sad story of podcasting with coffee is that usually I forget to drink it. And since I'm trying to only have 2 coffees a day, I'm trying to have these at the times when I have maximum enjoyment. So I'm just having water now, but I did have quite a lot of coffee before. So we should be okay. At least I'm feeling very energized today, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing. All right, finished objects, you guys. Let's just jump right in. In fact, let's start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my finished object of last week, I think, which is the Earnest cardigan by Joey Locatelli, which I knit out of Hillesvåg Sølje yarn out of Oslo. At least I bought it in Oslo. I'm not sure where Hillesvåg is located, but it's somewhere in Norway. Can I just say how much I freaking love this cardigan? I mean, I wear it all the time at the moment. I don't have that many cardigans. I was going to say I haven't knitted that many cardigans, and I have, but I never wear them because I've never knit a cardigan that just fits 100% right on the shoulders. I think knitted cardigans can be really tough because they often just tend to just slip off your shoulders, and this one just doesn't. And I've just been wearing this non-stop with pretty much everything I have in my wardrobe, and this is definitely my favorite knit I've done this entire year. I made this for the Practical by Kristen of Woolenvine in the hope that this would be a really practical garment, and it really is. It goes with everything, and I just love this thing so much. So happy about it. In fact, I want to make a couple more of these, not because I want to make the pattern again, but just because I want to copy this fit. So that will probably happen in the future, even though right now I can't face doing another one of these. This was quite a bit of knitting, but I think there will be more Earnest cardigan versions or modified Earnest cardigans in the future. Alright, let's talk about some new finished objects. So last week I talked to you guys about some knitting plans that I had to cast on the Karen Gorm hat by Isolde Teague, which just came out the day before. And it was so fun to read you guys' color suggestions, and a lot of you said use the bright pink. And it was funny because by the time you wrote that, of course I had already done that because you think just like me. So I finished a Karen Gorm hat. Like I said, patterned by Isolde Teague. It's a colorwork, stranded colorwork hat. It uses 3 colors. I used Rauma Finu Garn, Finu PT2. All the colors and the yarn and everything is in my project pages. In general, just a reminder, I always link my project pages right underneath this video down there. So if you have any questions as to what yarn did you use, what needle size, all of that, Before you post a comment, check the project pages because you will usually find all that information right there. So I finished this hat. I knit the smallest version. I used 2.75 millimeter needles for the rib and then the recommended 3.5 millimeter needle for the entirety of the hat. My gauge was a little bit off, and so I left out, I think, 3 rows, which again I wrote down in my pattern page or my project page. I left out 3 rows because I didn't want this hat to be too long. And it turned out just perfectly. It's pretty small. It just fits me. It's a true beanie. And I love it. I love it so much. I'm going to put it on. Why don't we put it on? Ruin my hair, but who cares? It's really just a beanie. It has no slouch whatsoever, but it just fits perfectly and it is so warm and I love it. So this is done and I just had so much fun knitting this. I knit this in a day. So I thought, why not knit another one? So I did. This is the second one. I used the same yarn again. I used Rauma Finu PT2 in a couple of different colors that I had in my stash. The only problem is that this dark green, which is the main color of this one, I had a sweater quantity of it and I was already kind of running low on yarn before I knit the hat. So now I'm definitely out at least one skein of 50 grams of PT2 because I just needed to use it for the hat. So I should really call up the place where I got this yarn and see if maybe by chance they still have the same dye lot. But how cool are these colors? So I knit a second one, pretty much the same thing, except this time I did not leave out the 2 rows because while this one fits fine, 2 rows or 3 rows more or less wouldn't have made a difference. So this time I just followed the pattern to the T. Also, this one I knit for the first time with a Norwegian knitting thimble, which is a little tool that you can put on your finger to separate your colors when doing color work. I just wanted to try it. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, and so for the second one I decided not to do that. I just knit this one in my quote-unquote normal color work style, which was I knit continental in general, and when I do color work I just have both strands of yarn over my left index finger. So yeah, I don't really know which one I prefer. I really love both and I think I'm actually going to be keeping both. These are just such fun hats and I would love to have a collection and just pick whatever hat I feel like any day. So yeah, these are done, 2 Karen Gorham hats and I absolutely love the pattern. It's just such a fun pattern. And with the yarn, funnily enough, this yarn is not scratchy to me, whereas the MCN yarn I knit a hat out of a couple of weeks ago was. So this is super wearable for me, and sometimes I like the big slouchy hats with a pom-pom and all of that, but sometimes it's nice to just have a super light, super fitted beanie sort of hat. And I've really been enjoying wearing these two. So they're done, my hair is ruined, and I am just very happy with these 2 hats, and I may actually make more in the future. This would also be a great gift knit. I only don't know how many people in my family would like this yarn because, as you know, probably Rauma Finul is a great color work, non-superwash yarn. It is not the softest yarn, but I really like it. We will see. Maybe there will be some gift hats, maybe there won't be. Oh well. So those are 2 finished objects. And you guys, you should be so proud of me because I also finished my Kyler shawl by Isabel Kramer. I hope I got that right because I've gotten that wrong so many times, but I think I got that right. If not, I will put it on the screen. So this is a lace weight shawl by Isabel. It has a lot of lace. It's a triangular shawl knit on the bias, and then it also has some stockinette, which you can see, except it's been folded up, so it's a little bit crinkled. But I knit this out of a different yarn that was recommended. I knit this out of what is it called? I don't know. What's it called? It's Garthenor. Garthenor number 1. I actually even have the tag. This is the yarn that I use, which is a super soft lace weight single ply Shetland yarn. So maybe I should clarify, it is super soft for being a Shetland yarn. It is not the softest yarn in the world, but it's a very beautiful rustic yarn, which being Shetland, it is very, very soft. As you can see, it's a natural colorway. It's called musket. I used just over 250 grams skein. So I think I used about 110 grams of yarn. And I basically just knit and knit and knit until I was just so sick of it and decided it is big enough, and I cast it off. So this is what it's like. I really, really love it. Part of me wishes I would have persevered and made it even bigger, because in this case, bigger just would have been even better. But even as it is quite large. I didn't do the edging as you're supposed to. I just did a ton of 1x1 rib when I was off work for a sick day the other day. I just lay in bed and did 1x1 rib, and then at some point I cast off or bound off, because I love the pattern, but I didn't 100% love the edging, which is similar. It just has another strip of like lace in between. So I just decided to simplify it and blocked it, and I love this. I think you can see how drapey and light this shawl is, and I think I'm going to wear it a lot. Pretty much similar to this cardigan. These natural sort of colors, neutral things, sometimes they're just really great for your wardrobe, and I love the lace. It just looks really pretty like that. So this is done as well. This took me about 3 months, which is why I eventually just decided to bind it off, because 3 months for a shawl for me is a long time, and the rows were very, very long. And I could definitely see myself knitting another one of these in the future, maybe with a thicker yarn, because by substituting a lace weight yarn, of course, I had to do, I think, a bit more knitting than I would have had to do had I chosen the original yarn. But yeah, I'm very happy to have this done. I've just been in the mood to finish some stuff, and it feels really, really good. So with that, let us move on to works in progress, because not only have I been in the mood to finish stuff, I've also been in the mood to cast on all the things. But let's talk about what you've seen already first, and the light is definitely going now. I've been working on these socks, which I have finally decided will be for my grandma for Christmas. I showed these to you last week. The yarn is a very affordable German indie dyed yarn by Tausendschön in their sock base, which is a virgin wool and nylon blend in the colorway Liebelei. And I'm just knitting a plain vanilla sock. The first one is done, 64 stitches on a 2.25 US size 1 needle with a garter stitch fish lips Casil. So I finished the first one, and yesterday I knit most of the second one, so I'm down to the heel. I am about to put in the fish lips Casil, and then I just need to do the foot, and then this will be done, and one Christmas present will be off my list. 2 more to go, 1 down, almost. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this, and gosh, it is getting very, very dark very quickly. This is kind of worrying, but I will just try to hurry up. So that is one sock project. I have also been working on my selfish sock project, which I cast on for the Blame Dunder Knit Along. And these are some socks out of yarn from Das Mondschaf in her Pegasus base in the colorway Butterfly Effect. And these are the Solstice Sunset socks, which is a pattern by Flock Fiber Studios. I am knitting these 2 at a time, toe up. I'm not sure if the pattern is written toe up. I think it might be, I'm not sure. I just stole the stitch pattern. And you can see how fun these are. I still love this pattern. These socks are still very much not matching, which is just because I'm knitting from the outside of a ball, and obviously one side of the skein just got more color than the other one. You can see it even more in the back, but I think it's really, really fun. So this is where I am. I have turned the heel and I am about halfway up the leg, so these are pretty close to being finished as well. They have a cute little detail on the back of the foot as well. In the beginning, I wasn't too sure if I was going to do it, but I'm glad that I did because it's just another little faux cable, and why not? I mean, these are really fun socks. They will be for me. And yeah, that's where we are with these. So again, 64 stitches, 2.25 millimeter needles. Yeah. Next up, let's talk about some new cast-ons. Let's talk about the one that I'm excited about the most. So I only cast this on like 12 hours ago, but ever since Ellie showed one of her sweater designs months ago, she had this boxy shaped colorwork sweater with armhole sticks. And ever since seeing it for the very first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I really, really need to make that as soon as it comes out. And then I actually saw the sweater in person when I met Ellie at Oslo Stricker Festival, and she was working on it. And again, I'm just the biggest fangirl, and I just wanted that sweater. So yesterday, when I saw that she had finally released that pattern, I bought it immediately and I cast on the same night. So the pattern that I'm talking about is the Otra sweater by Ellie of Skandir Knits. It is spelled O-T-R-A. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. And it is a top-down, boxy, dropped shoulder colorwork sweater. This is what I have. It looks very, very funny. And you guys, this gave me some headaches. Not because the pattern is difficult or bad, not at all. Ellie does a fantastic job. She even did like a video tutorial. She just said like the very beginning is the only, not even difficult, but slightly more complicated thing in this entire sweater, and yes, it was. Partly because I was tired and I was doing this around midnight last night. Partly because I didn't have the right needles, so I was doing this on very blunt needles on a too short cable, which just don't do that. I mean, what was I thinking? But I have done it now, and the construction is really genius. I won't give it away because obviously that is a brainchild of Ellie's. But essentially you have like short rows and a neck opening, and you kind of do everything at the same time, and it just works like a charm. And so now I have the back here, which is slightly longer than the front, which I just started. And there are the steeks at the sides, so it's going to look like I'm knitting like a pillowcase like this for a while, until eventually I will cut open the steeks and have armholes where the steeks are. So yeah, I am just so freaking excited about this. Sorry, I'm just excited about everything today. So like I said, I have finished all the complicated bits now. I have stolen the needles from my red Madeline Tosh sweater because I just needed some needles with a longer cable and proper tips, because I was using the Knit Pro Zing needles before, which I like for a lot of things, but they were just blunt. And they were just doing my head in, and this yarn was being splitty, and it was just a disaster. So my red sweater currently doesn't have any needles, and we will fix that problem another day. But ever since switching needles, and now I have, I think, a 125 centimeter cable on it, it's working like a charm. So I've just finished like the very, very first bit of color work. I'm not sure if you can see. And now it's just going to be a lot of color work, which is super easy. It's a super easy color work chart, which I find super relaxing. It's just I think it's going to be very quick. The only thing that's not quick is the fact that it is a fingering weight yarn on a 24 stitch gauge. And because it is a dropped shoulder, it is quite like a wide sweater. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I didn't swatch. I kind of knew my gauge, and this has about 20 centimeters of positive ease anyways. So I chose size number 3, which gives me about 15 centimeters of positive ease, but then my gauge is off by 1 stitch. So I think it should be fine, and really, I think nothing really can go wrong. I feel like I've knit enough sweaters to know what I like and what I don't like, and I also kind of knew the gauge that I wanted to use this yarn with, so it'll be fine. Talking about this yarn, this is one of my favorite yarns that I use way too little. This is yarn from a Danish company called Garnetsalg. It's a not very common yarn, I think, at least. I found out about this, of course, from Ellie a couple of months or maybe even years ago as well. The company is called Garnetsalg, and if you buy their 50-gram balls, you get a label. So this is the label. It's their Black Hill Soft Wool. And it is a yarn similar to like Whole Super Soft, JC Rennie, but I like it a little bit more. It's definitely even nicer to me. And you can buy like these 100-gram cakes, which are very, very inexpensive, and they haven't been washed, so they just come off the cone, I guess. And they only really bloom when they are washed, but they are very cheap. So they have a couple of colorways usually on these 100-gram cakes. Super affordable. And then you can also buy these balls, which come with a label, and these have been washed. They come on 50-gram balls, and they have a lot more colors in these balls. So it's basically the same yarn. It's just a different price point depending on which kind of yarn you get. So I don't have any colorway names for this. This is just it's like slightly heathered grayish purple, which I had in my stash for a while. And this one is colorway number SS158, and this has 275 meters per 50 grams. So this is a non-superwash wool. It's perfect for this kind of thing. It is perfect for sticking and color work, and if you have been watching for a long time, you may remember I knit the Emma yoke sweater by Astrid Tüting out of this yarn, and I love it. I love it so much. This is the sort of yarn that it's not I don't mind knitting with it, but it's not like a yarn where it's pure joy to knit with. But once you start wearing it and washing it, it just gets this halo. Like, it doesn't really pill, it just kind of fuzzes over a little bit. And it just creates this amazing, super light, but still very warm sort of fabric. So, like I said, the Emma yoke is probably my favorite sweater in terms of the yarn and the fabric that it creates over time. So yeah, I am super happy about this, and I'm hoping that next time I show this to you, I will be a little bit more or further along. But yeah, that is my Otra sweater, and I am using 2.75. No, I'm not. I'm using 3.25 millimeter needles to get gauge. Probably I could have used 3 millimeters. I think then I would have gotten 24 stitch gauge. With this, it's more like around 23 stitches per 4 inches, but that is absolutely fine by me. I just wanted a somewhat, it's not a super loose fabric anyways, but I didn't want a super tight fabric with this yarn. So that is one cast on that I've done. And I have cast on something else. I've been doing a lot of knitting, in case you haven't noticed. I've been having a lot more time, which has just been amazing, and I hope it keeps going that way because I feel like I deserve it. So I cast on another thing, and I'm quite far along with it as well. And this was just on a whim. I saw that a couple of people have been knitting the Shake It Up shawl, which was a mystery knit along and is now a shawl design by Anna Johanna. I just know that she's Anna Johanna on Instagram and possibly on Ravelry, but if she's not, you will find her either by looking for the Shake It Up shawl pattern or by checking out my show notes and my project pages. So it's a 3-color shawl. I know that there's a knit along for it at the moment by a couple of German podcasters, I believe. And I just decided to pick 3 colors from stash and start knitting. So what am I using? I am using one skein of Malabrigo sock once again in the Anniversario colorway, which is a colorway that I got ages ago and I've just been hoarding it and not using it. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. Then I'm using another skein which I got from a lovely friend from the US. This is Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering in the colorway Kenton. And I'm using one skein which I got quite recently at the Yarn Festival in Vaterstetten near Munich. And this is by Lakshmi's Dreams in their pearl sock, and it's called New York. So I just picked 3 skeins from Stash, and it is a shawl that you basically knit. You start with very few stitches and then you start increasing, similar to like you Find Your Fate and all of these shawls. And there's just a lot of things going on. Originally, I was going to do the Plumpy shawl, which is a similar concept. It also has brioche. But then this one just had a little bit more in terms of interest and different sections. So I decided to go with this one. Like I said, this happened very much on a whim last Sunday. And this is where we are. So the needle that I'm using is not super long, which doesn't help in showing this, but you start with garter stitch, there's some striping, there's some lace, more striping, and now I am working the brioche. And it just has sections like that, and it's just a really fun knit. I'm just really enjoying knitting along and changing colors and changing textures, and yeah. If you want to see the reverse, you can see I've changed into the 3rd color now in the brioche. And I think it's only really going to come together once I finish the shawl and all these 3 colors. They kind of blend and contrast, and I think it's going to be a really fun shawl. So like I said, this was very much on a whim. This was very much not planned. I just felt like playing with a couple of colors, and so far, I'm really, really enjoying the pattern. The only thing that I changed is the increases. So a couple of people have already done this before me. I'm doing yarn overs and knitting them through the back loop instead of the knit front back increases, just because I like the edge more with that. And this is one of those patterns where you have to keep moving your stitch marker every single row. Just due to the decreases. So that is just really annoying to me, and with those kind of patterns I always just remove that stitch marker and rather just kind of look at my knitting and figure out where the decrease has to go, because moving stitch markers around every row, that's just not my style. It just really annoys me, and that is, again, not the fault of the pattern. I wouldn't know how to explain it otherwise either, but it's just it's not even a modification. It's just a tiny thing that I'm doing to make it a little bit faster and easier to me. So that is my Shake It Up shawl. I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles, which is one size down from what the pattern recommends. Just because I know I'm a loose knitter and I don't want my brioche especially to be too loose. And it's going to be a plenty big shawl anyways, so going down a needle size shouldn't affect it too much. So yeah, that is what I've been knitting on. I haven't touched my red sweater, but I feel like I've been finishing a lot of things, so I have no sort of bad conscience about that. All right, before we go into acquisitions, let's talk about acquisitions first, because those are topics that are advantages to look at with good lighting or reasonable lighting. So let's talk about the yarn first. Some yarn has found its way to me, whoops, but I will say that some of it was gifts and some of it was ordered before I decided to stop buying yarn. So in October, I saw that there was a couple of different sale options from Nora George Yarns, who is Tracy. So I finally jumped on it because I have knitted with her yarns once and I really, really enjoyed it. But with shipping from the UK and all of that, it's just not something that I can afford all the time, but I jumped on it when she had a free shipping coupon code, which was really great. Thank you, Tracy. So I got 2 skeins of yarn and they finally arrived, and look at those. Aren't they so pretty? One of them, this one is in her BFL socks. So it's an 80% superwash blue-faced Leicester 20% nylon blend in the ochre colorway. And how beautiful is this? I mean, Caroline of Dundonit, this would be your color, but it's also my color and I love it. So I got this skein, and then I also got a skein of her gold sparkle sock, which has gold stellina in it. This is called Meadow Saffron. And yeah, it's just beautifully, like slightly heathered. I wouldn't say it's variegated, but it definitely has quite a lot of depth in the colors. And I bought these 2 knit socks because I just thought they would be really nice sort of patterned socks. But they do go really well together as well, don't they? So I do think they will be socks, but I haven't completely made up my mind. We'll just see how it goes. But they're absolutely stunning, and Tracy just does beautiful colors. So yeah. So this is what I got for myself with my own money. And then I also, it seems that yarn just keeps arriving and finding its way to me and wanting to live with me because I have the best friends. So yesterday, my friend Marion, she went to a yarn store and she brought me some yarny gifts. So she gave me these 2 skeins of yarn, and these are just so woolly and scrumptious, and this is yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners, their Croft base. Sorry. And this is 100% Shetland wool. So I've seen this yarn before, but I have never seen it in person or purchased it. And this has been a yarn that has been interesting me for a while. So it was just so cool that Marion apparently had the same sort of idea. And she got herself some yarn, and she also got me 2 skeins. So somehow both labels have come off, so I'm not sure which one is which. But these are the 2 colorways in case anyone is interested. And this is about a DK weight, I think. Let's see. Actually, is that a worsted weight? It's 166 meters. It's an Aran weight. Amazing, right? If you read the label before podcasting, you can actually know what you're talking about. But who does that? So apparently it is an Aran weight yarn. It's 100% Shetland wool. I really like it. I wouldn't say it is super soft, but it's quite soft. And I think it's going to make really great hats. So yeah, love it so much. Thank you, Marion. These will go into my stash, but I think I'm just all about the small knits at the moment as well. Like, I just love finishing things like those hats, just like faster projects, and I think these would be pretty fast to whip up into some hats, and yeah, I love them. So these are the acquisitions for this week. I actually have more yarn, but we will split it up into a couple of episodes because there's no point in showing to everything at once, and then I should stop buying yarn, so then I won't have anything to show to you in the future anyways, so I will just spread out the yarny goodness. But one thing that I did want to talk to you about is, I guess it's an acquisition, but it's an acquisition that I made months and months ago and just decided not to talk about until I had kind of made up my mind. So you may remember I'm pretty much the needle set Grinch because I'm always the one who hates interchangeable needles. And I've been saying that on camera for a lot of times, I think, in the past, how I just don't like interchangeable needles, and I just don't see the point, because the one set that I had, and unfortunately still have, which is the Knit Pro Nova interchangeable set, I know lots of people love it, and I just hate it. And so I was always the one who decided to just buy fixed circular needles in the sizes that I really need, because a lot of needle sizes, needle sets, they come in a really, really wide variety of sizes, and then I would only use like 20% of the needles, and I've just always been the one saying I don't like needle sets. And then I think sometime in maybe June, July, I'm not sure, I decided I still had a voucher which I got as a Christmas present for a yarn shop, and I decided on a whim to order the ChiaoGoo needle set. I'm not even sure why I thought about it, but I really like ChiaoGoo needles, and they're quite expensive, and I think I wasn't really ready to start buying single needles again. So for some reason, I decided to get the set and just see how I feel about it, and maybe I would change my mind. So I got this. This is the ChiaoGoo set. I got the metal needles. I should really know what I'm talking about. I really don't. But I got the smaller set, so you can get either like the full set, which has all sizes, or you can get there's like a smaller half set and a larger half set. So I got the smaller set, which goes from US size 2 or 2.75 millimeter needles to a US size 8, which is 5 millimeter needles. And it comes with a couple of cords, and as you can see, this is pretty much what it looks like. So I have this half empty, so if I ever bought the bigger part of the set, I could put these needles in here. But I just got the small set. With my voucher, it comes with a couple of things. It comes with a needle gauge, which is actually quite handy. It also has a ruler on it, so always need a ruler. And this one has centimeters and inches, which I appreciate because I can't really do inches. It comes with a couple of cables. I also ordered, I think, a larger cable because I was knitting a large project at the time. I think I was knitting the Starflake shawl, or I knew that I was going to knit the Starflake shawl, and therefore was going to need a very large cable. And I also ordered myself one of the twisty cables, which I don't have to show you. They have cables that they turn on themselves, and it's more like a nylon cord, which I will say I don't enjoy it. The one that I got, one of the joints is a bit wonky, and I actually talked to the sellers, and they just said yes, they sometimes tend to be wonky, and they always recommend these cords, which I love. It also came with a couple of like stitch markers and end stoppers and all of that. And then one more thing that I got for myself, because I knew that I was going to need it, is you can get these, they're just like silicone hearts, I guess. And I've heard so many good things about them. So instead of using the keys and screwing in the needles, you can just use these. And they work a lot faster, and I just love them because they're not so fiddly. So that's kind of the extent of what I got with the set, and like I said, I didn't talk about it back then because I really wanted to see if I liked it before talking about it on the podcast. And just in case anyone was wondering, I'm just talking about it because I think it is interesting. I'm not being sponsored. I'm not getting anything from my thoughts on this. This is just my opinion. So after months and months of testing these and really putting them on a lot of projects and testing them out, you guys, I'm just reformed. I will just say I was wrong. I was wrong when I was ranting on about needle sets and them being crappy, and there always being difficulties with a join. I just had the wrong needle set, because this needle set is freaking amazing. I love the join. If you screw them in properly with these tools, the join is amazing. It's pretty much not there, and that's the issue that I had with the Knit Pro needle set that I had in the past. There's always a bit of a join, and I kind of accepted it and thought, well, that's probably a thing that is going to be true for all interchangeable needles, because it makes sense if you have to screw something together that it can't be seamless. But these needles, I just enjoy them so much. The tips are super sharp, they're not as sharp as like the higher sharps, but they're almost as sharp. So I think they're perfect for my knitting style. I mean, it really depends on how you knit and what you like to knit as well. So I think needles are always very, very personal. But for my knitting style, they're perfect, and I do love these slightly heavier cords as well. Again, I know some people who love them, some people who hate them. But I've just noticed that I use these needles for everything. And like with this sweater, as soon as I put this sweater on my ChiaoGoo interchangeable needles, everything changed. And you know how I love tools. I think good tools are really, really important. You don't always have to invest in good tools right away. I mean, I've been knitting on less expensive needles for years and years. So I always think it's important to know that you don't need to spend a ton of money. But I will say that this needle set, which I'm calling my Ferrari needles because I think they're fancy and they have red cords, it has really been making me so happy these past couple of months. So this is a little bit of an admission for me as well, because like I said, I have been ranting and ranting about needle sets being crap for such a long time, and I take it all back. I just had the wrong needle set. So how interesting is that? I just thought it was fun to talk about because, yes, I'm allowed to change my mind. So that was just a little side bit about needles because it's just something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but never really had the time or energy to talk about. So there you go. All right. How long have we been recording? Over 40 minutes. I think it's time for me to stop talking and get back to my knitting. Very quickly, in terms of life in general, nothing major has happened. I've been working less, which has been amazing. I just have a job where hours tend to be quite long. I work in a startup, and startups are always a lot of work. But I finally have some more time, and it's just really relaxing, and I'm really noticing how much more I can get done now, which is also why I'm allowing myself to cast on all the things, because it just feels like I have time and energy to actually finish them. Besides that, I had quite a bad bout of migraines, and I used to get migraines a lot, and it's gotten a lot better in these last couple of years. And I should stop fidgeting with needles. Sorry. And I got so many good tips on Instagram. So if you're someone who maybe is interested in that as well, check out my Instagram post of myself wearing my Cairngorm hat, because so many people chimed in with tips on how to deal with migraines, and that was really, really lovely. So thank you to all of you who maybe chimed in with your knowledge and experience there. But yeah, I'm feeling fine now, thank goodness. I think I'm really lucky because I know there are lots of people who suffer from migraines much more than I do, and that can be really, really excruciating. So yeah, that can be tough. But I'm absolutely fine now. It is the weekend, yay! Like I said, the weather is pretty dark and gloomy. It's not raining, but I feel like it has never really gotten light today, and it's been like that for quite a while now. So today, this morning, we decided to actually kind of get into the Christmas spirit. We have a couple of Christmassy things that we want to build and decorations to put up. I actually made a little advent candle thing with succulents, and maybe I'll put in a photo here. So we're just kind of, you know, shacking up and doing all the Christmassy things. We're probably going to, you know, spend some time this weekend making good food. Kai wants to make some more gingerbread, and just enjoy being at home and getting into the Christmas spirit. Yes. I said Christmas numerous times here. There's one viewer who always comments and tells me how many days it is until Christmas, and that just makes me so happy. I think it's so funny. So hi, if you're watching. Yes, Christmas is approaching, and I am excited. I'm here for it. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to talk to you about this week. Next weekend, we have a fun little trip planned, but it's only a one-day trip, so I should be back to podcasting on a regular schedule anyways. And until I see you again, of course, you can always follow me along on Instagram. I'm not always super vocal there, but I try to post something every now and then and post a couple of stories. So if you are interested, you can always find me under the name The Happy Knitting Podcast. I know, very, very creative. Anyways, that is it from me today. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. I hope you have a great weekend. You find some knitting time. Maybe you have some yarn to play with. Maybe I could enable you to get some more yarn, because more yarn is always a good thing. In fact, it was really funny. My parents were here yesterday and they were like, "Oh, you have a lot of yarn, Julia." And I'm like, "Yes, I know." And my dad was just, being a dad. He was so interested and fascinated by my ball winder, and he's like, but why do you have to wind it? And I'm like, well, because it comes in hanks. So I showed him like a skein of yarn. I think I showed him my Nora George yarn, which is why it's not beautifully skeined anymore. So I opened it up to him and showed it to him, and he's like, why don't you just knit from that? And then I showed him like the Swift, and it's like, but why don't they just make yarn in balls? And it was just so interesting to see someone who is not knitting, look at this craft. And then my grandma was there as well, and she used to be a knitter, and she's like, well, we didn't have that. We used to like put the hanks on someone's arm and then have someone stand there while you wind it off. And it was just so fun to see both my parents and my grandma, who is a knitter, react to all this nitty stuff that for us is just obvious and easy and the most natural thing in the world. So I thought that was hilarious. So a little side story there. But with that, I'm actually going to stop talking now and let you go and get myself a coffee. So thank you so, so, so much for watching this podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And until I see you again, thanks again. Happy knitting. Bye.